Hello, everyone. We are Group 6, which includes David, Linda, Anne, Matthew, and Christine, myself, and we are presenting Data in the Hollywood Blockbuster, which is our analysis of movie industry data. We were curious as to how Hollywood can predict that a movie will actually be a hit. Well, luckily, the movie industry, which generates over $11 billion in annual sales, has a massive amount of readily available market data on the various forces that have shaped the industry and its performance. So as we began to formulate our data analysis plan, we developed some questions that we wanted to research and considered several variables that we would study when conducting our research. Some of the questions we considered included: how much do things like genre and production cost influence a movie's success? Have predictors of success improved over time? So, we dug into the data. So our data set is comprised of approximately 500 observations and 19 variables. The data tracks mainstream movie releases from 1968 to 2017 and includes a variety of metrics on budget, genre, release dates, number of theaters, source material, box office results for opening weekend, as well as total box office results for domestic and international markets, just to name a few. Using various models to analyze our data, we are looking for relationships between box office success, and that's domestic and or international, and a film's characteristics. And now I will turn it over to Anne to discuss the first of our analysis models, linear regression.
The first analysis we performed was with linear regression. We thought that production budget would have a strong relationship with box office performance. However, as you can see in the scatter plots, this was not the case. The top plot shows inflation-adjusted domestic box office on the y-axis and production budget on the x-axis. The bottom plot shows worldwide box office versus production budget. The data are clustered in the bottom third of the plot with quite a few outliers. Removing some of the outliers and redoing the analysis by decade, we found that production budget has become more related to box office performance over time. Performing further analysis, we found that opening weekend revenue and number of theatrical engagements were more strongly related to box office success. This makes sense, as we've probably all heard of big budget films that have bombed at the box office, while small budget films sometimes become big hits. Furthermore, given the pace at which new movies are released, a movie needs to make a significant impact in its first weekend before being replaced by the next big movie. Therefore, we concluded that studios should focus on driving opening weekend engagement for their movies through advertising, strategically timing their releases, or other methods.
Following the linear regression analysis, an ANOVA analysis was performed to determine changes in mean box office and production budgets for these top movies over time. This was checked across 5 different time segments, with time segment 1 being the last 10 years, 2008 to 2017, all the way back to the 1968 to 1977 time segment number 5. It was hypothesized that that box office, domestic and international, would increase over time, statistically so, and that production budget would as well. The thought for box office being that a growing economy and opening international markets would leave more money for entertainment and increasing film revenues. For production budgets, it was thought that higher cost production methods, such as special effects driven movies and a more competitive market, would necessarily lead to higher costs of producing movies over time. These findings this assumption was true, as box office, both domestically, internationally, and combined worldwide, did change over time. However, you see that the domestic box office changed very slightly, in approximately 15% increase, while the international box office grew from a very small portion of returns to upwards of 2/3 of returns for these highest movies. What is interesting to note, however, is that while these box offices have grown, production budgets have grown even faster, and the actual multiple return multiple has fallen over time. The conclusion of this is that studios should focus on films that appeal to international audiences, where the larger portion of the market now exists, and this is especially true when they're investing in large tentpole films. Further analysis was performed to determine qualitative predictors of success. Using a linear regression model with dummy variables on movie genres, the hypothesis was that action, adventure, and horror movies would come out with the highest y-intercept and lead the box office. An ANOVA analysis was performed on production methods, such as special effects, animation, live action, with the hypothesis being there would be a difference between the production methods and that special effects driven would drive revenues and lead production budgets. We did find that genre does have a predictive impact on the economics of a movie, but that horror, adventure, and thriller suspense movies were the leading moneymakers, not action movies, which actually fell behind others in life. Using the ANOVA analysis, there was a statistical difference for the mean box office of the three production methods and a statistical difference for the production budget of the methods. And while, yes, special effects driven movies did show the largest box office returns for the industry, they also had the largest production budgets, and in reality, the percent return for each of the methods was very similar, with having approximately 5.6 to 5.8 multiple. And while special effects driven movies should still be a focus, especially with these international audiences, the movie industry should not shy away from animation and live action, where they can find similar returns with much less risk at a 30 to 50% less cost to produce.
K-means clustering analysis was performed against both the production methods and time segments of the movies. Based on differences found in the linear regression, it was expected that the three production methods would cluster relatively well. Many clusters on production methods were performed, but it was found that the best indicators were worldwide box office, production budget, and return multiple worldwide, all scaled and inflation adjusted. As there is no formal logic into the 10-year time segments, it was expected that the films would still cluster relatively well. The data shows a logical flow as the cluster for each period tends to align most with neighboring clusters, indicating that the data clusters well over the entire 50-year period. The K-means clustering highlights the difficulty to predict movie success from the production methods. This suggests studios should continue to develop a wide array of films. For time segments, it shows that similar movies have found success over time periods and that the changes are gradual. Hierarchical clustering was performed on two different categories. Findings were similar to the predictions with one notable difference. Thriller movies clustered with action before adventure, concluding that studios should consider the behavior of thriller moviegoers and consider if marketing of those movies be aimed at the same demographic as action movies above adventure movies. The second hierarchical clustering analysis considered production distributors with the prediction that large studios would cluster away from small studios, but the clustering did not follow the expected pattern, the only takeaway being that characteristics of the most successful movies are widely distributed between large and small distributors. Based on the initial linear regression findings, PCA analysis was used to determine how much of the variability can be explained by the variables of production budget, domestic box office, international box office, and worldwide box office. As expected, the two principal variables, production budget and domestic box office, explain a large amount of the variability, about 92% in each segment. Thus, while the international market increasingly affects overall worldwide box office numbers, the variability of production budgets in different segments accounts for the differences in segment over segment variability. PCR was also performed on each segment with the same set of variables. The approach involved using the same components as the predictors from the linear regression. Since a small number of principal components can be used to explain the majority of the variability, PCR would be used to attempt to confirm the same relationship. As expected, the smallest error occurs with three components, but three components are not significantly different than using just one. Unfortunately, the PCR analysis is ultimately inconclusive here, as the principal components are not totally independent. Worldwide box office being the sum of domestic box office and international box office.
The movie industry is a high-profile business with a highly variable revenue stream. Our team employed a battery of metrics to analyze optimal conditions for movie success. While many factors are involved in the ultimate success of a movie, we found the highest grossing films are representative of a wide range of genres and production budgets, and found the most success in wide release, including international markets. This is further evidenced by the longitudinal findings of increased movie revenues and budgets, with studio success generating from top movies with high production budgets. We also determined that the timing of the movie release is critical to the success of a film. Data analytics can be leveraged by the industry in a number of ways to assess past data, make creative marketing decisions, and accurately predict the prosperity of upcoming movie releases. This could possibly be augmented by scraping of information from film reviews, ratings, comments, and social media content. This can help establish engagement patterns, degree of engagement, and even audience fatigue with a particular genre or celebrity. Studios should continue to invest in data analytics to improve their ability to predict box office success while producing a wide variety of content to ensure high revenue and interest. Thank you.